and God picked you guys to be, I would like you to become the greatest spirit-filled entrepreneur, evocateur. How's that? You're now,
Love that.
I am a spirit-filled evocateur of young entrepreneurs. There's your new title.
Hey everyone, my name is Luke Aberley, and I'm here with my dad, Troy Aberley.
Hello, everyone.
And today we have a super exciting and special guest on with us today, and that is Mark Victor Hansen. He is a super awesome guy. He's taught me a lot. I've looked up to him for many years, and he wrote some of the coolest books ever: Chicken Soup for the Soul, Ask, and lots of really other. Yes, I love that book. That is like
yeah, me too. And there's our little book, Ask.
That is so cool.
The bridge from your dreams, your destiny, and everybody out there has a destiny, and we want you to get to it.
Yes, I love that.
I'm glad, and thank you for being a big reader.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been a huge fan of Ask for a long time now, and I just can't wait to talk to you today. So I have a few questions for you today, and I just kind of want to let the conversation go where it goes. So the first question is maybe like a little, in case some people don't know who you are, maybe a short little introduction of really who you are, and maybe what your favorite books that you've written. That's the question I had.
First of all, I'm honored to be on your show. I'm thankful for the two of you watching us on lots of different podcasts and reading my books. My parents were Danish immigrants. My dad, as it turns out, because you're Canadians, had to come into Canada before he could come into the United States, came out because he hated socialism, just like I do. I am very pro-capitalist, which means I want to create money, create entrepreneurs, create people like you. And I believe an entrepreneur does a very simple thing, Luke. They find a problem, fix it, make it work, and make a profit, and then scale it, which means do a whole lot of it and make a big profit. So when I started, I went bankrupt my first business. That was 1974, and I decided to be a speaker. Somebody taught me how to do it, and I did 1,000 talks a year for the first 3 years. Now, only Tony Robbins and I, we were on a meeting together, and we were chatting, and we said, well, we must be the only two crazies here, but look at what we've done. I mean, at the time, I had 387 employees and was running a $100 million company. So, you know, I came from the other side of scratch. My parents had no money. My daddy was a Danish baker. Nothing. By the way, blue collar is wonderful. This is not a besmirchment of anyone if you're not professional. That's not the issue. The issue is every one of us has great talent. And my dad wanted my brothers, I got three brothers and myself, or any one of the four of us take over his bakery. In Europe, that's a very big deal, right? Dad creates a business, the son takes over, the grandson takes over. Doesn't work for me. I said, Dad, I'm a white glove guy. I'm not sure what one is. And because my parents spoke Danish, I was in a remedial reading from first grade to sixth grade, and they thought I was dumb. Well, I would say after 318 books, I guess maybe I'm not. And remember, you got to have fun. That's called self-deprecating humor. You got to make fun of yourself. Don't make fun of other people. It's okay to make fun of yourself. And then when I was 14, my English teacher, Mr. John Reinhardt, you know, I was pretty good in English and writing and reading, and he was so powerful. He was a theater guy, but he was big, and his wife, I'd go over to his house with my younger brother, who's really smart, and my friends, and his wife said, Mr. Reinhardt would have books in the ceiling if it would only hold them. And I thought, wow, what a concept that is. But he got me addicted to reading books because he'd come in and he'd expect us to talk about whatever the news was that night. And when I was your age, there was only 3 TV stations, and we had a guy named Walter Cronkite and the news. Now, here in Arizona at ASU, Arizona State University, we got he was from Arizona, the Cronkite News Communications Department. In any case, he would say, well, what happened? And I was in his class. I'll do one dramatic thing. I know I may be overdoing this. You may want shorter answers. And if you do, I can do short answers.
Please.
No, I just want to hear what you're.
Okay, so I'm in his class, and it's 2:15 in the afternoon. We got out at 3:15, so it's an hour class. And we were studying Shakespeare at the time, and it was wonderful because he'd want us to compare the President of the United States to Shakespeare or whatever Mr. Reinhardt wanted. The class did. Whether you're smart or not, he made you feel smart. He was like some movies your dad's probably seen, like To Sir with Love. Did you see that, Dad? Yeah.
Perfect.
And he'll make sure you see it now, or Stand and Deliver with Jaime Escalante, who took at-risk kids in the ghetto of Watts and got them all to graduate calculus, and then they all got into Harvard and Stanford. And before they did, they said you cheated because you all knew the answers. Well, they danced the answers, so they knew the answers. Well, that's what Reinhardt would do. He'd make learning mythology so interesting, or Shakespeare so interesting, you just go, wow. But this day was a bad day. We had the greatest president. Sorry, I still get choked up. John Kennedy got killed, and they came over the intercom and said, school's closed. John Kennedy's just been shot dead in Dallas. But Reinhardt wouldn't allow it. There were 32 of us. It was a big class. And he said, boys and girls, you're not going to go home. You're going to call your parents, and we're going to talk about the greatest president ever. Because what he wanted, now this may be farther along than your writing and reading's gone, but Camelot. Have you seen the TV shows on Camelot or that?
I have. Yes.
Camelot created the round table. Like I taught, Crystal and I have 5 kids and 6 grandkids, and we've taught our kids that they got to learn chess, because what happened is he had all the knights of armor learn chess, because there's always going to be a finite amount of moves in a chess game. And right now, my grandson, who's 9 years old, is a champion chess player, and he learned off the thing. When he said, Grampy, if you really think it's that important I learn chess, I'm going to beat you. I said, there you go. Yeah. And he does, because he's really learning. But Reinhardt got us all to believe that. Long story very short, when I won the Book of the Year in front of 60,000 people with Dr. Jack Canfield, my partner, my parents had already died. So I called up Mr. Reinhardt and I said, John, would you and Ellen be my guests? And I'm going to honor you in front of 60,000 people.
Cool.
Powerful. Anyhow, I'm out of that. So that got me reading, and then I couldn't stop reading. And then when Jack and I got together, we fell in love with the idea of, Jack heard me talk to 6,000 people at a talk. He did in the morning and I did the afternoon. He comes up to me and said, I'm Jack Canfield. And I said, I know you're Dr. Canfield. He said, how do you know? I said, well, you're third in your class at Harvard. You've written a book called 101 Ways to Build Self-Esteem in the Classroom, and you're a superstar, and you were the launch meeting today, and I'm the tie-up. And he said, well, you're the best storyteller I've ever heard. I said, oh, well, thank you. Anyhow, we had, you'd know it in language, a Vulcan mind meld. Today we call it a mastermind. 2 get together, the power of 11. It's a 4th principle I'll teach under this today, that I'll teach you 3 principles. That'll be the 4th one if you want. Anyhow, Jack and I became bestest buds. And all the stories I did, we did in the first Chicken Soup, which we've now reissued, the 20th anniversary issue, except it's expanded, improved, and it's a little different. We got rid of some stories we couldn't keep for a whole bunch of reasons, which I can take you through if you're interested, but that's not important today. Anyhow, and then we've sold 500 million books. When Jack and I started, we say you got to have a purpose statement. Our purpose was change the whole world one story at a time. And we thought the soul of America, North America, was in trouble. I'd worked in Canada a month a year for the last 20, 30 years. I've talked everywhere. There's not a province I haven't been to. Moose Jaw, you name it, I've been everywhere. That's not a province, it's a city, I know. But my other writing partner, this guy, is from Moose Jaw, Art Linkletter. Was just a wonderful guy. But I got into book business and love writing, kept writing. And for the kids, we got the bestseller that's selling like crazy still, which is amazing to me. The richest kids in America. It tells every kid that made $1 million before he or she was 19. But if you look at like Akiana, I have her picture, one of her pictures over here on the wall, but she started painting Akiana Kramaric. She started painting at 8 years old, and just it's such a gift. She made $1 million on her first painting at 8 years old. So, but she and her dad is Mark, like I am, Mr. Kramaric. They are beyond exciting. And here, I don't know if you can see that, but we had a picture. I brought all of them together and we did a giant meeting. They were little and I'm big relative to size, but they were just beyond exciting. And one little girl, this black girl here, Jasmine Lawrence, she figured out how to black people were having their hair fall out when they did the cosmetics. And she said, well, she was a national honor student and she figured out how to do natural ingredients, and she had a tough time getting it sold. But once she sold it to Walmart, she ended up with 500 employees and did like $50 million worth of business. And she was only 18 years old. It was like amazing. So what I'm saying to every kid that's going to watch this, and I hope it gets watched around the world, for two reasons. Number one, everybody's got to become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And I'm not the only guy saying that. The Nobel Prize winner, Dr. Muhammad Yunus, who's a friend of mine, says everyone's got to be an entrepreneur. I believe everyone's got to be an entrepreneur, because to come out of COVID confinement cocoon, you've got to be able to create a business. And I've already said, you just got to find a problem. And there's nobody that doesn't have a problem.
Right.
You know? And by the way, you say, well, you were laughing at my problem. No, I'm laughing at my problems. I've had a lot of problems. That's why I got a lot of money, because I say, well, hell, who's going to solve this? And I look around and, oh, I guess God picked me again. So, and God picked you guys to be, I would like you to become the greatest spirit-filled entrepreneur, evocateur. How's that? You're now,
Love that.
I am a spirit-filled evocateur of young entrepreneurs. There's your new title.
Love
You
that.
say, look, I listened to Hansen, and I don't know whether he's correct or not, but I'm going to take it.
Well, that's what we feel. We feel it's both the kids and the parents, and we have to, that's why I live by my slogan, create and live chapter 2, because I feel like everybody's came up in a certain upbringing and in a DNA programming, if you will, like Mr. Proctor would say, and that you have that paradigm and I feel like people need to start a new one and be able to inspire their kids and not just be, holding them into, I don't know I can use the word paradigm, but practical habits that keep them constantly stuck until they're 25. And then it's like they lose that. They have too many reasons to not do something or to stop. And we want to change that. We want kids to and adults to both feel empowered to work together and to create entrepreneurship.
So two things. Well, number one is I've owned 2 companies with Bob Proctor. We own the 3% Club together. We own $1 Million Forum. And I think the world of an 87-year-old guy who's a genius. I consider him one of my greatest, most treasured, honest, ethical, moral friends, because there's a lot of people that aren't those nice words I just said about Mr. Proctor.
And he talks a lot about you.
Yeah, well, we're like, notice who he doesn't say words about. Luke and I are buds forever, and Luke's going to do the richest kids in Canada, right, Luke?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Luke, your next question. I don't know if I answered your question. Whoops,
Oh,
sorry.
you did perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
You really I just want I honestly just really want to just listen to you just talk. I just find that amazing.
You just want me to talk?
Yeah.
Well, because being able to take the information that you've been able to create over the years and is made the masterpiece. I think that's Luke's big thing, as you know, is to be able to forward that on to youngsters his age and be able to say, hey, pay attention to this guy. This was the guy that you needed to listen to.
Okay, so here's what I thought. I thought maybe because of your age, you'd have a little fewer questions, and I'll do as many as you want. But it was interesting that this week we're on a podcast, and the guy said, pretend you're talking to my university. He goes to a black university. He's a professor there, and he's a doctor and all that. And maybe you'd want him on too, but I can't guarantee you he's famous, and I can't guarantee he'd do it. But I can't imagine very few people are going to turn me down. When I ask them to say, I want you to go on Luke's show, they're not going to say, oh, schmuck you. Anyhow, yeah, you're not that good, Mark. Anyhow, his question, which was really brilliant, the last question, because my wife and I do the interviews together on our great book, Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Destiny, because we think everyone's got to know how to ask yourself, ask others, and ask God. But this guy says, you've got now all the graduate students, all the business students at our university, a black university called Howard University.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got to tell them exactly in 2 minutes what they got to do. I said, well, first of all, mindset, 7 things I did. Mindset creates money set. Your state of mind creates your state of money. And this afternoon, I'm doing that talk in Australia called, I got a new book out called Unlimited Riches, Creating Self-Replenishing Prosperity. Meaning if you get paid, work once, get paid once, that's a job. I write a book once, like I wrote this, I can't tell you exactly when I wrote it, but let's say I wrote it 15 years ago. I still get checks all the time. That's called a royalty. My wife was an actress and did a lot of commercials. As you can see, she's scrumptiously beautiful and gets residuals from SAG. So if you work once and if you own real estate like we do, then you get paid rent every month and the rent pays for the house. You get to do tax. I don't know how it works in Canada exactly. In other parts of the country, same thing. Well, that's how we do it here. And when you buy one, then you're supposed to buy a lot. You're supposed to buy one house a year for the rest of the year. That's called investment, but we're not there yet. So first of all, mindset creates money set. And you have to mindset that you're going to be rich even if you're not. And the Bible says, let the weak say I'm strong. Transliterated, that means let the poor say I'm rich. Because the best thing you and I can do for the poor is not be one of them. Poor people can't help poor people. I do a charity on every book I write because I've got money, so it doesn't mean whether I eat. And if you look at Malachi 3:10 in the Bible, it says, the Lord's talking, he said, prove me now herein if I don't open up the windows of heaven and pour you down such a rich reward, you will not be able to receive it. Now at the front end, that doesn't make any sense. If I got listen, I'll use something that you can relate to. If I got $1 and I give away 10 cents, now I got 90 cents. How in the heck am I going to have more by having 90 cents rather than 100 pennies, right? But here's the way it works, because I got grilled by the guy I did the money book with, which I'd ask you to read if you can, other than Think and Grow Rich, which I'm sure you've read. 1 Minute Millionaire is the book that stands on the shoulder of Dr. Napoleon Hill's book. And it's 2 books in one. And this is my symbol. The universal symbol of freedom is a butterfly. And those are my corporate colors, purple and yellow. But the book is, the left side is your left brain. It teaches you the principles. And I can go through that if you want. And the right-hand side shows a little, I don't know if you can see it here very well, but a butterfly at the bottom. You see the butterfly? And it flies you off to freedom before you get to the top of your right brain. So this is the only book that does right brain and left brain at the same time. Nobody's ever done that, because I'm going to teach you that whatever you do has got to be unique. These are the 3 principles I want you to live by. Got to be unique. It's got to be transformative, meaning that if somebody reads my book, it transforms them. Like you said, my Ask book changed your mind and thinking. And I want you to do a 1-minute video, Luke and Dad too, on what Ask specifically did for you. You text it to my telephone and we'll put it up at Amazon, right? Because I ask everyone to help, right? Where would my integrity be if you're asking me and I don't ask you to help me do? I want to sell, I've sold 500 million books, but I want to sell 1 billion books. So I'm going to ask you to help me sell. And if you do, you do. And if you don't, you don't. Anyhow, with 1 Minute Millionaire, what we said is there's one right, perfect, easy, acceptable way for everyone to become a millionaire. Now, given an inflating economy, and I just did a video that'll be up on YouTube in 2 weeks called How to Out-Inflate Inflation, because I thought it through pretty well, I think, is that you've got, and by the way, today, you might want to come on that call in Australia in 2 hours. And it'll probably be up on YouTube after that. It's patmesiti.com/Mark. Patmesiti, MESITI.com/Mark. I've done so many TV, radio interviews in Australia in the last week and in Singapore and everywhere that I've got that memorized. Anyhow, the point is, so there's one way to get 1 million, and there's 1 million ways to get 1 million. See, the trouble is guys on infomercials start to say, hey, there's one way and mine's the best way and the only way, and you ought to do real estate, or you ought to do blockchain, or you ought to do IP or intellectual property, or whatever you want to do. I don't care what you want to do. I mean, somebody made these lights and made 1 million. I'll just give 2 quick examples. I've worked a lot of marketplaces, but dentists are one. And we don't have near enough dentists. We need more, because nobody wants to look in a little black hole when somebody's anxious and painful. But I just had dentistry that cost me $5,000 for 1 tooth, because I broke a tooth and it went into my gums, which is really a nuisance. I didn't know teeth could break, but they said, look, a tooth is a bone, Bubba. And I go, okay. Anyhow,
I just went through that too.
Oh, yeah. So you know the pain and the expense.
Oh.
Yep. So take good care of your teeth, son. Anyhow, so the 2 things are, I met the dentist who created dental floss. Now you say, well, hell, I've had string in my hand and I could have put wax on it and made dental floss. Of course you could. But that guy made $2 billion with a little thing called dental floss. That's called an entrepreneur, right? Find a problem, fix it. And Zig Ziglar in our business did that great joke is, he'd go to his dentist, he said to his dentist, I don't want to floss. What teeth do I have to floss? He said, only the ones you want to keep, Zig.
That's really good.
Because you got to brush and floss. Okay, so the other guy in Newport Beach, California, where I live, we now live in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is wonderful and it's beautiful and sunny and warm outside. little hot here during the summer, but he created 3D teeth and he makes $2 million a week. What am I saying? Once you got this mindset, you'll get a money set. But if you get a money set and you say, well, I'm a dentist, I'm a garbage man, I'm a waitress, and I make 30,000 a year, or 300,000 a year, or 3 million a year, you get into that, and that would, Proctor would say, that's your thermostat. And it isn't bad to have a thermostat. I got a thermostat in this room. It's like 100 degrees outside right now, and I've got it at 76 because that's the temperature I want to be, especially under the stage lights I have in my little, this is one little segment of my office here. Anyhow, is it okay? So you get the mindset. Once you know what you want, now the question is, what do you want? What we're teaching and ask is you got to go deep into your subconscious mind and 100 to 400 times at one night say, God, what's your destiny for me? Now, if you're not into spiritual, you say, what is my destiny? What is my destiny? But I prefer to say God or infinite intelligence or universal wisdom or universal love or infinite intelligence, whatever word fits for you. I'm not biased, except I am believe in God. So, or, you know, if you're Christian, you just want Christ. Christ, what's your destiny for me? Because if you're alive, we're teaching in our Ask book that you've got a destiny. It's great. And that includes a person laying in a hospital bed that's 78 or 88 or 98, right? If they ain't dead, they got something to do. So get your butt well and get out of bed. That's the point. If you've got something to do, you do get well. If you don't have something to do, less chance of getting well. You're either evolving, getting better paradigm, or involving. So you use or lose it is the cliche, right? So once you ask what it is, and when I was bankrupt and upside down, I did that when I was sleeping for 6 months in front of another guy's room. And what happened is that I kept saying that, and I said, okay, God, look, I'm ready to kill myself here because I just lost $2 million. What is it you want me to do? And he said, what do you want to do, Mark? And I thought, whoa, you're putting it back on me, pal. Okay. I want to talk to people that care about things that matter, that make a life-changing difference. So that's that part that became speaking. And then the three principles I said, you got to figure out, you got to be unique. It's got to be transformational. And then the third part, it's got to be inevitable, right? So it's inevitable that what you think about comes about. So I kept thinking about speaking. I became a speaker. A guy taught me how to do it. And I did more speeches than anyone else. But you go from that, and then people say, well, do you have it in a book? And the first book I did was called, here. Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win is the only copy I got left. But just a little book I self-printed, and we printed them for $1, sold them for 10. And I did little audiences in life insurance meetings. I sold 20,000 copies. I sold them to groups of 10 people or 20. There's never any big groups. I sold 20,000 copies in a year because I was doing 4 meetings a year.
I did not know about that book.
Me neither.
What?
I did not know about that book.
Yeah. Well,
like,
I did.
Your 1 Minute Millionaire.
Yeah.
That one there. I have it on my other bookshelf just in front of us.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyhow, so I said, look, this isn't a New York Times bestseller. It's not a national bestseller, but it's my bestseller. And I want to sign it to you, your wife, your kids. And if you got a dog, Luke, I want to sign it to your dog. Everyone laughs. But I sold 20,000 copies the first year after being bankrupt at $10 each, made $200,000. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven because I was doing what I wanted. I was speaking, writing, traveling, having a wonderful time. And the best part of it was it was inevitable, because you're only good if you're helping other people. In other words, Christ said the greatest amongst you is servant of all. So the more people you serve, the more money you make, right? Napoleon Hill teaches the quantity of service, quality of service, plus a positive mental attitude equals an unlimited compensation. So you figure out, get a mindset, you ask yourself what you want, you put it in writing. Bob Proctor teaches his little gold card that says, I'm so happy and grateful, you know.
We all have gold cards.
You have it in your pocket right now?
These pants actually don't have pockets. I just changed them out for the video, but
we all carry our gold cards though,
every day.
So what does your gold card say?
My gold card says that for my YouTube channel, I would like to get up to 50,000 subscribers by December 31st of 2021.
How many have you got now? Do you know?
415, I believe.
Okay. And you're asking on all of them to share it with 10 people that they know? That's a way to get to 50,000.
Yeah.
You can broadcast this because I'm world's best-selling author, at least Guinness Book of Records quotes me as that. And I got a couple other Guinness records, and my wife will get one for the longest prologue, right? So you figure out your mindset, you figure out what you want. It's got to be in writing, right? And you got that. Third thing is next thing, you got to have a partner. Now you've got your dad as mastermind partner. You can't do better than that. So 1 and 1 equals the power of 11, right? You can see the 11 in that,
Yeah.
right? And then you know the mastermind principle, and that's it. Now, who discovered it was Napoleon Hill wrote about it, but Andrew Carnegie discovered it.
Yes.
Andrew Carnegie's reading the Bible, says, holy cow, there's 12 guys. Jesus, the big guy, Jesus has 12 guys. They're all working together. And when they're working together, there's harmony, right? Mind coordinated harmony.
Yes.
The problem was one guy went south on him, a guy named Judas, screwed up the deal a little bit. But the point, and he knew that was going to come. So he says, so you got to keep your team working and going in the same direction. And luckily, I've been able to do that repetitively in a lot of different companies and enterprises. So that's it. What's your next question?
My next.
So you figure out what you want, you write it down, you get a mastermind dream team, you visualize it to realize it, and you're home free. And it has nothing to do with what your dad said correctly is if you finish school or don't finish school, and I'm very big on school, right? As long as you're teaching conservative and they're not teaching you to stop thinking or stop asking questions, then I get uptight, right? And that's why I'm sort of glad Dad's homeschooling. See, I do listen to what you said. I think
and we love it because we've tried to talk to schools, Mark, about ways of looking at things differently, and they don't understand, right? It's not their fault, but the thing is we have to change it though. Well, it is their fault, but it's they don't know any different either. And that's what's so painful. And that's why homeschooling for us just works so much better, because we can just change that. So this is their first full year now, just about to finish up with it. So
Yeah.
Good. Well, the other guy I want you to study is Elon Musk. I think he's the genius. Mm-hmm. And he made his first $500 when he was 9 or 10 years old. And then after that, he did another thing with his brother and made a bigger fortune. And then he went to Canada, went to school in Canada. And then he finally goes down to a school called something, let's see, it's down in Silicon Valley. Yeah, right. Stanford, right? And when he gets to Stanford, he thinks, holy cow, I got this thing. I got Peter Thiel, who says, don't go to college. Peter Thiel says, just go out and do your business. You'll learn more faster. Because when you're in business, you're forced to think 24/7, right? And I happen to like to think, so it works for me, right? That's why Napoleon Hill said, think and grow rich. But you got to use the gift of God gave you as imagination. And my question is, the size of your question determines the size of your results. So if you decide, oh my God, how am I going to make $100,000? It's no harder to say I'm going to make $1 million, which is 1 0 more. That's it.
That's the thing. We're all awake for 18 hours, probably maximum.
Yeah.
You can choose how you want to work.
Yeah. So you want to go create something, and the world's never had more problem or more need. There are 8 billion of us live. 1 billion of us are unemployed right now. And I'm in a lot of businesses that I think are going to change the world. They're inevitable. Like we can take trash and turn it into cash. One of the companies I'm a partner in is QCI. And, I'll be talking about that and showing that on the video when we come on
That's really cool.
Yeah, 6 o'clock my time, which would be 7 o'clock your time. Go ahead. Your next question, sir.
So a question that's a pretty simple question, actually, is what age did you start your first business, and what was the business?
It's a great question.
I haven't read these yet, Mark, so this is new.
The first thing I did at 9 years old, right? I told you my parents were loving. They loved my brothers and I, and they wanted us to work in a bakery, which is wonderful if that's what I wanted to do. Nothing against the bakery again. I just didn't fit that model. I didn't like being up all night. I didn't think it was a cool idea. I didn't think having to go in a stove and have my brother shut the door and he says, we're going to turn on the heat, Marky, and we're going to pop out your eyeballs. But that made me claustrophobic. So at 9 years old, I desperately wanted a bicycle. I got a bicycle magazine and I had a picture on the wall, ride a wheel on Sheffield Steel. We didn't have low handlebar racing bicycles in America yet. And this last principle, visualizing is realizing I could see it every night. I saw myself pedaling and winning, and I got 19-inch calves because I used to race and do pretty good in bicycle races. Anyhow, I'm reading Boy Scout Life magazine that said I could sell greeting cards on consignment, which meant they gave them to me and I sold them. So I went around the neighbors. My mother taught me how to sell. I sold 376 boxes in 1 month, which was the #1 guy in American greeting cards. And it cost $2 for these greeting cards. And the women all thought I was a cute little kid who was sludging through the snow, sort of like you guys in the winter. there. I've been there a lot in the winter, so I got it. I was back in Waukegan, Illinois, on Lake Michigan. Anyhow, the outside of Chicago. So it was interesting. So I'm their number one guy. I win the Entrepreneur of the Year award, and then 30 years later, I was the number one licensing guy. Like I've done $2 billion worth of books, but I've done $1 billion worth of licensing, and nobody ever licensed in nonfiction books before I created it. I'd read on one weekend George Lucas's book and Steven Spielberg's book. They'd made 800 million in ET and made $1.5 billion in licensing. And I went into Dr. Canfield and I said, Jack, pal, we're going in licensing. He said, what do you know? I said, nothing. He said, why are you telling me you're going to do licensing? I said, look, when I was in graduate school, Dr. Buckminster Fuller, one of the guys I want you to study, said, everything's a system. You're either in it or you're outside it, and you can get in it if you study an hour a day for 2 years. You're going to know more than anybody else in the system. So I just studied licensing. And anyhow, long story short, Gibson greeting card, which I was the number one guy when I was a little kid, came and said, we want you and Jack to do stuff. I said, well, I'm the writer. Jack's the inside guy. I'm the outside guy, and I'll market it. We sold, again, the second time I sold, I love the greeting cards I created, but I sold 897,000 bucks Christmas cards at grocery stores in a year once I did greeting cards. And then we did like $157 million worth of dog food, and we got 15% of it. Now that's a good, clean, white glove business because I didn't have to do anything except when the dog food company, Diamond Pet Foods, I was talking to them, they flew in and came to my office. I said, my little daughter's becoming a vet, and we had 88 animals on an acre. And here's the way it comes down, guys. I just worked for Purina, the biggest dog food company, and they had the best packaging, the best placement, the best blah, 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 blah. And it went to number one, and then it crashed. And the president came in right before I talked there with Jay Leno, the comedian. And they said, what went wrong? I said, the dogs don't like it. So I said, if we're doing dog food, you're going to make it organic. It's going to be healthy because I got 4 dogs out of these 88 animals. We're going to test on my dogs. If they don't like it, I'm not doing this because I got my name, my reputation, my brand, the command, putting on stuff. I won't touch it. So we did it. And that's why we're one of the biggest dog foods now. And you say, well, you're not in the dog food business. No, you and I are in the think business. There's no limit to who can think. No offense intended to the people in the dog food business, but they see themselves in the dog food business. I see every business the same, and it just takes somebody like me or you or us to come in and re-strategize it and get paid for it. And remember, we said residual, self-replenishing prosperity. I get paid all the time on dog food. I don't have to make it. I don't deliver it. I don't package it. I don't repackage it. But I did things nobody's ever done. I put little booklets that are chicken soup booklets with 3 stories inside. And some people buy it just to get those books, but they buy 50-pound bags. Well, it works for me, right? Does that make sense?
That is incredible. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, you and I are here to have fun, but the point is, back to your dad's thing, the school system teaches you how to be rote, and I'm all for us learning the alphabet. But then there's an infinite amount of things we can do with 26 letters, right? An infinite amount of things we can do with a few musical notes, an infinite amount of things we can do. And there's the trouble with the system at Education Day is it teaches you how to be finite. Back to what I said, you are an engineer, you are a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're a garbage man, you're a waitress, you're a chimney sweep. Nothing wrong with any of those. But that's what you do. That's not who you're a human becoming.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Proctor to you teaches that eloquently well. Okay, your next question, sir.
What question that I had is, what inspired you what did you learn from Chicken Soup for the Soul?
Well, what inspired me when I went bankrupt, I started listening to audio tapes, and that changed my mind. And I heard this great storyteller. You can go back online and look up Cabot Robert, who is my teacher in speaking and one of my 2 teachers. The other guy's Chip Collins. And the other, he taught Zig Ziglar and made Zig Ziglar really rich because Zig Ziglar was not doing well when he learned from Cabot how to. Cabot Robert had created how you sell products, how you sell stuff for a platform. And he did it inadvertently. He was 62 years old. He'd always wanted to speak. He came up with this great speech called "You Can't Heat Them with Snowballs." It was one of his 2 talks. The talk was, "Are you the cause or are you the effect?" And by the way, cause and effect are one. if an acorn, it's got to become an oak tree. It can't go out and become a kumquat or a tomato or an apple tree or an orange tree, right? The law of identification that Bob teaches so well. So, and you know, I want to sell 1 billion books. So that is my notion. That is my acorn. It has to become an oak tree. And I can't exactly tell you how it's going to be, but I'm going to keep coming up with new ideas, and it's going to have branches. So Cabot Robert is 62 years young and a lawyer and very successful, but he puts together this talk, does a talk to 7,000 Rotarians, and says, this is a brand new thing. This is like 1962. Audio tape recorder by Sony was big and bulky and heavy. By the way, it was great, you know, better than, because Bob Proctor carried around a Victrola in his car and played it and made
Right?
money.
Yeah, record player.
Yeah, so, and that's true. I've seen the Victrola. I've stayed at Bob's house on Proctor Lane a bunch of times because we own these companies. So, Cabot Robert tells these people, said, this is the tape. I just did this talk, and the tape's $10, and this tape recorder's $29.95. So for $40, whatever it was, $40, $50, whatever he said, I want you to get it because this is going to change your life. Well, he couldn't believe it. Now we can't, I don't know anyone who sells 100% of an audience. Like today, when I'm on in Australia and in New Zealand, if we sold 100% of the audience, electronic stuff that Pat, Miss Edie, and I are doing, boy, would that be exciting. Thank you, God, we accept. Anyhow, the point is, you know, rare, you almost about to be giving away gold bars for nothing to get 100% of an audience to buy today, just because they're resistant. They've got their own internal, they don't want to be better. They don't want to pay for it. And it doesn't work. If you don't pay for it, the value cycle is not complete. You don't get the use of it. Anyhow, so he sold that, and 7,000 out of 7,000. And for the next 3 days, he couldn't sleep saying, what did I say that made this work? He created the speaking industry, which has now gone from that one talk to $30 billion a year when it was open and we were doing seminars. And just to hit on that, when we were coming out with our book, Ask, Crystal and I were booked on one talk in Washington, D.C. with 11,000 people, same promoter, and one in Florida with 15,000 paid attendees. And he calls up and said, COVID has just shut down the thing. I've lost $5 million. You're fired. He said, I like you, Mark, and I'm not firing you because I want to, but they won't let us have the meeting, as you guys may remember. And this COVID stuff has killed a lot of, it has killed a lot of self-esteem. It's put a lot of people in depression, anxiety, mental health problems. And that's why I'm trying to speak and do all these Zoom calls, say, hey, wake up.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, but if you got ivermectin and you got hydrochloroquine, you're not going to die. You just take it and you get well the next day. I did that 50 weeks ago, so I know this stuff works. There's stuff that is, and you get it from your doctor ahead of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We got to get back in the momentum. The world has had so much good momentum, and it's frustrating that some people have allowed the momentum to stop. And I say, get back on, you know, find that new path and let's go.
We're in quarantine, but you know, we have to find a new way to bring back that motivation, that momentum, and really
Exactly.
find a new
You got to
way.
make money in quarantine.
Yeah.
And if you're really thinking, there's a book, if you read Acres of Diamonds by Dr. Russell Conwell, Acres of Diamonds says, there's more acres of diamonds here than have ever been mined. So if you're stuck at your house, you can still make a fortune. Just like, didn't matter that the guy came up with a dental floss. If he was sitting in his house or in his dental office, the point is it made him rich. I'm sure he quit dentistry after that. And I just saw him talk. Your next question, Sir Luke.
So what would be the top couple things for creating success for kids and families?
Okay, let me bifurcate that, put it in two parts. First of all, every kid can use the same principle, and you say, what is it that, what is my unique idea, God? What's my unique idea? Now, everybody, every kid, every person has 50,000 ideas a day. Most of them are like, I got to go get a glass of milk or whatever. They're perfunctory. They're not high level important. But if you train your mind, when you shut your eyes before you go to sleep at night, you push back sleep and you give yourself what we call a thought command. And you say, okay, what is my money-making idea that's going to make me unlimited wealth and create a fortune in me? What's my money-making idea that's going to create wealth and have a fortune? Now, you got to have next to the bed pen and paper to write it down. And assuming you got your own bedroom, say, if you're sleeping with your brothers in the room or your sister or whatever, say, I'm going to have to turn on a light and write this down, because you've got to write it down the minute the idea comes. because that's it. Here, come here. Come here. I'll show you our ferocious guard dog. We're grand babysitting. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Well, he didn't want to come here. We got a Yorkshire Terrier that is guarding our house temporarily. The kids are all down at Disney World on holiday because we're in a holiday weekend here, Memorial Day weekend. Go ahead. Next question. Oh, so I think every kid's got a great idea, and it has nothing to do with age. It has to do with, saying what is it, and your subconscious already knows. You've already got all this stuff, but you got to get rid of the distractions, get really linear about what you want to do, and if money making is important, why not be richer than your father, right? Just like I tell my wife, look, you're doing such great stuff. You be richer than me. I don't mind being married to a really rich wife.
It's not a problem.
Yeah. By the way, we tell all our grandkids they get to do it, and our little grandkid, that's the 9-year-old Everett, who's the first story we haven't asked, right? He's precocious. He's gifted. He memorized every body part at 6 years old. Every anatomical body part, and people didn't believe it. And top guy at Mayo Clinic, the best health clinic ever. We got one here, $12 billion a year. And the head of innovation there, Dr. Bernard, said, well, we don't let kids in, but I need this kid to come, because he watched him on Easter Day. We were at a party together, and he said, I can't believe your grandson. I want him to go to be Dookie Howser. And he said, what do you think, Grandpa? And I said, absolutely not. I want him to grow up and be a kid. I don't want him to work 18 hours a day for U.S. Medical, because he did the operation. Did you see the movie Iron Man?
Yeah.
3D computers, right?
Yeah.
We're there. We're ready to have those, but they got them over at Mayo, and they do operations on aneurysm, blood clots, and all that kind of stuff. And 20 doctors are there, watch my grandson, go through every body part, and they all said the same thing. I can't do that. I don't know every anatomical body part at 6 years old. The kid is just, and he's self-disciplined to the max. I mean, not that I'm not, my son isn't, and our son isn't, but this grandkid just gets up at 6, says to our son, Dad, take me, I got to go learn Spanish this morning, because Grandpa said I got to know Spanish, Chinese, sign language, and English. And I got to go have this done. And he gets that done somehow. So
his name is Everett?
Everett, yeah, Everett.
Okay, because his 9-year-old brother is Everett.
Yeah, it's a great name. So Everett is doing this incredible stuff. And he says, when do you want me to make a fortune? He said, I'll use my mind that way. I said, well, you're 9 years old. Before you're 12, let's figure out how you're going to make one, and Grampy and Dad will help you, just because it's there to do. It's not rocket science. All you got to do is tell your mind that you want to have $1 million idea that you personally can execute. Now, for the family, it could be a family idea. And let me just give you, we think buying franchises now is not a bad idea. I mean, Shaq O'Neal owns 155 Five Guys. Five Guys is the example I'm going to use with you. So Five Guys, how did that come? The dad says to the 5 brothers, boys, he only had boys, said, boys, I can send you to college, or we'll start a family business and we'll make a fortune. Well, I whatever number I give you is made up, because I could look it up and Google it, but let's say they got 1,000 or 5,000 franchises. I don't know. But it's all because those 5 brothers came in and made a fortune, and now they got guys like Shaq O'Neal and guys like me saying, I'll take a franchise, and for me, it's a passive income. I'm not going to flip hamburgers, sell hamburgers, or nobody will know I own it. It's called a passive income. For me, I invest because I got good credit, and it goes, if I do, I haven't bought one yet, but it looks like something we should do. There's a couple like that. Salads go, all kinds of cool stuff. Now, that's what a family would do. Does that make sense? So I bifurcated it. I took your question, I cut it in half. Bi means 2. So I did 2 questions out of 1.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions?
I have one question to finish it off, but do you have any other questions for?
How did you get, it's a question I've always wanted to ask somebody, and if I may, is to get yourself and your message in front of people today with speaking. And it feels like things are changing with having large events, and things are now becoming more niched down. That's how it feels. How does somebody get into the speaking industry? Is there?
Well, when I was bankrupt and upside down, I went and saw that guy, Chip Collins, one of my roommates. He said, look, kid, you're not going to make it, 1 in 1,000 chances, but I own the 5 boroughs of New York. I lived in New York at the time. He said, you stay out of real estate, because you got to pick a market, pick a niche, and decide that you're going to grow a rich niche and do total market penetration. He said, you do life insurance because you can do that there. It's a bottomless pit for motivation. You always need it. And that's why I sold all those, stand up, speak out and win that I just showed you. So he said, you're going to call on 10 people and one will buy. So the next day I knock on doors, 6:30 at night. It's late at night. I'm at a Metropolitan Life Insurance office, and the guy is bigger than my table here, my desk. He weighed 450 pounds if he weighed an ounce. And his name was Tony. He couldn't have been more affable. He said, kid, if you can teach my people to work as hard as you do and come in here at 6:30 at night when everybody else is at home having dinner, I want to hire you. So Chip gave me the question, do you want to cut the check or have your secretary cut it, which was great. And I used it, and he said, I'm a big boy. I was charging, he said, come in under market value. So I came in $25 for 4 talks, prospecting, presenting good work habits, and closing. And I knew nothing. I knew how to sell experientially because I could do it, but I really didn't have a seminar done. Well, when you sell a seminar and you're paid in advance, you start writing seminars. So in the middle of the night, I'm writing a seminar. What am I going to teach this guy in prospecting? And I say there's 8 ways. Now I tell 12 ways to prospect. Anyhow, so you just prospect, find a marketplace, and preferentially find a marketplace that nobody else is doing that needs training and wants training, and it will pay for training. And life insurance is that kind of market. Real estate's that kind of market. MLMs, network marketing is that kind of market. If you really can deliver the goods, they're great. And I think right now with your son, maybe you got to be teaching, figure out 3 principles or the 4 principles we taught that you're going to teach every kid to have an entrepreneur's mindset. You're going to teach them how to figure out what they want to do by controlling their mind, putting it in writing, visualizing it, putting together a dream team, a mastermind alliance, and then they'll go get it. It's that simple.
Thank you. And the one question that I have to ask you is, a parent comes to you and says to you, I don't believe that my kid couldn't do this. I don't believe that I should take this seriously about entrepreneurship or kidpreneurship. What would be the advice, Mark, that you'd say to them that you feel they're missing out on?
Well, by the way, if you change your mind, come back later. But here's what happens. What if it does work and your son makes $1 million, and because you're over 21 and he's not, you got to, at least in America, I assume up in Canada, you got to sign in his bank account. So you're going to have control of a lot. And what if he comes up with that stellar idea that you really love and want to get behind? Because Luke, I'm depending on you not only teaching this, but also coming up with a multi-million-dollar idea. And remember, it's got to be self-replenishing. It's got to be ongoing. I don't want you to work for a job. It's okay to sell greeting cards or potholers or anything, wash windows like Bob did, but ultimately you got to have something with the reoccurring revenue.
Yeah, that makes
same for you, Dad.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. And I commit to that. And I wanted to ask that question so badly because I think so many parents, it's one thing to hear it from me, but I think hearing it also from you is the what if. What if it works out exactly?
Well, what if he does succeed? That's the point. Not what if he doesn't, because most parents, unfortunately, remember, 9 out of 10 thoughts people have are negative unless you really program your mind full time to be positive and to read the kind of stuff that Bob and I are saying you got to read, whether it's Napoleon Hill, because he's an addict. I used to be addicted, but I now believe that you ought to go watch all the videos by Brian Scott on YouTube. They're just brilliant. Brian Scott's got this plethora of people that, like, he introduced me to a guy I'd never heard of that in 1903 wrote a book called Dollars Want Me, and all I did is I rewrote it and brought it up to date to Money Wants Me, and that'll be one of my many books that come out this year, and it's big. It's good because I think we've got too much inflation. I think people are afraid and scared and not know what to do, and so I write into the problem because I think, in answer to your question, find the pain point of the customer you're going to go sell. And the pain point in insurance was they didn't sell enough. So when Bob and I sold the company, the mistake I think both of us made, we worked together a lot. That's how we met, because I was training in life, State Farm Insurance, and he was training there. And we should have taken 10% of the increase. We would have gotten much richer. Instead, we just sold our seminars and got paid well, and sold a lot of product. Like, I go to the average meeting, and State Farm is such a good company, they let them do what's called payroll deduction. So if you're the general agent, I said, look, you got these 50 guys, 500 guys in front of me. Is it okay if we just do a payroll deduction? They buy my $300 worth of books. I said, yeah. Thinking 1 or 2 will do it, and then 500 do it. Well, that's a big payday. Bob and I could sometimes walk out with $180,000. for talking for an hour, so it's been really good.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Luke and I live by the words learn, execute, and inspire. That's our 3 words.
And now I gave you 3 more words. We're going to have be unique. It's going to be transformational to whoever the end user of your product or service is. And it's going to be inevitable that they're going to love it so much. In this case, you're going to get to 50,000 people. And seeing as I'm better known than most people you're going to interview up to now, broadcast it with me, because my name has the Chicken Soup for the Soul creator with Jack, Dr. Canfield, and it'll go like crazy. And then I'll get you some other great interviews that will blow your mind.
Thank you.
Last question, sir.
I really have one last question to kind of end this off. You've given us so much value today. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Is there anything that we can do to help you?
We are just finishing our 2 funnels. We've got a funnel for Ask, the book thing, which you guys could make some money on if you wanted to sell that. And then we've got another, I want everybody in the world to write a book. And I wrote a book called You Have a Book in You. And we got, if you go to hanseninstitute.com and watch all the videos, I want everyone to write a book, and you guys can make some money with that. But our son who runs that for us will not be back. Now, he also does cars. He does $50 million a year car business called Car Finder, but Preston. But if you go to hanseninstitute.com, you see pictures with Preston and I, and we've done it together. And he's good looking like crystal, and just, he's amazing. The difference is he knows technology, and he grew up with all this cool tech, and I'm pretty good on the computer at some levels, like writing a book or translating and all that. But the kind of stuff he can do is not in my vocabulary, so to speak. I didn't learn those 26 letters. He's got it down, and he helps. So if you're interested, no pressure. No. We love you to participate, and we're going to create, because the funnels are one of the ways to sell, and it's the way that everything is going to go. And you can create your own, and use like Bob Proctor, but everything is going to go mobile, everything is going to go video, everything is going to go in, so you're in the right zone. And then what you decide is that from Luke's view and kid entrepreneur, the family challenge, I think it's got to be the world. My challenge to you would be challenge the whole world to get every kid to be an entrepreneur. Now, I respectfully understand you're not labor laws and all that stuff, but a kid deciding to do business, I think, is probably safe, as long as they get back to your family challenge, as long as the parents are in on the deal and can go out with the kid. And I'll just give this one last example. We have it in that Chicken Soup book, in case, I think we still got it in here. That first story, I met Marquita Andrews. Marquita Andrews is the world's best saleswoman at 12 years old. If I give the wrong number, it's not malicious. It's a long time since I wrote the story. But Marquita started selling Girl Scout cookies. Her parents had no money. She's Black. Nothing was working there. Not in a really good neighborhood. The dad left. All the tragedy you'd want to hear. So I won't go into that part. But her mother kept saying, Marquita, you're 8 or 9 years old. When you grow up, I'm going to make sure I make enough money as a waitress that you're going to college. And when you go to college, you're going to make money and take mom around the world. All she heard was take mom around the world, take mom around the world, take mom around the world. She gets in Girl Scout, sells Girl Scout cookies, if I give you the wrong number, it's me, it's not her. I think it was 42,000 boxes. That's an enormous amount of boxes in the Girl Scout cookies. But her clothes was easy. See, if you got a big enough aspiration, it's easier to get to a big goal. It's hard to get to a small goal. That's why I'm glad you got 50,000 as your goal. Because if you said, well, I just want to get to 500 and you're at 400, it ain't going to work. Your mind won't go to work. The bigger it is, now you wake up in the middle of the night and your mind answers. But she said, how do I sell enough? Because if I sell the most Girl Scout cookies in the world, and she knew what the number was, it was whatever it was, right? Let's say it was 30,000. She blew past it. Mom and I get a trip all the way around the world, all expenses paid by the Girl Scouts. So she sold 42,000 books of Girl Scout cookies, went around the world, was on programs with myself and Dr. Dennis Whaley when she's a little kid. But who got to come in the program? Because they always had to have their mother, her auntie. Her auntie was with Century 21 and said, look, if you're going to sell, you got to, in Century 21, we got to wear these yellow outfits. And I trained in Century 21 all over Canada for Peter Thomas when he owned the franchise up there. Now he's my neighbor here. He's moved down here and he owns Dogtopia, right? Do you remember the name Peter Thomas?
Yep.
Yeah, he's a billionaire, one of the richest Canadians. But Peter and I are like, we've been friends 40 years. So it's one of those things. So, I trained for him everywhere. Whenever he was in trouble and the business down, he had me train mindset to get the business up again. Anyhow, so Marquita Andrews became the number one saleswoman, but we were on videotapes, we were on the TV, we were on a lot of TV shows with her, myself, Dennis, Dr. Waitley, and a few other people. And it was great fun because, here's this kid who just didn't know she couldn't do it. And that's where you are, Luke. All you got to do is if somebody like your dad says, oh, I don't know if I believe a kid can teach me about kid entrepreneurship. What if I can? And here's what I do, and here's what I've written, and here's who I've interviewed, and I've interviewed all these people, and you're going to have to listen to Mark, you're going to have to listen to Bob, you're going to have to listen to, I'm going to give you the top young artists. I'm going to, Weiland, the world's greatest profitable artist is, I've written 3 books together, right? He'll interview with you because he started with club feet when he was your age. And then I raised more money than anyone for March of Dimes. And I said to Weiland, help me a little bit, but I was working with a movie star, Melanie Griffith, who, because she was helping me, I had her talk with Bob and I on a couple of meetings. But I said, Melanie, you got to help these kids. And, they're dying unless we help them. And so she did. And then Weiland came in and he will tell you that he made more money than me. But I said, you had Club Feet. I didn't. I just wanted to help the charity because it was a great charity. Okay. Go ahead.
Is it possible to work on a book of the Canada part, like with him? Would you help him with that?
You do all the work and write it. And let me look at it and I'll write the forward to it. How's that? And I might help you publish it, but it's got to be a really excellent book. But why would you do anything that's not excellent? You look at my book as a form and formula and go beyond that, right? Making sure it's unique, make sure it's usable, test it out on the audience. Like we test Feedback's Breakfast Champion. So we always make sure, like when we did Chicken Soup of the Teenage Soul, we partnered with Nickelodeon. Do you know Nickelodeon?
Yeah, I do.
They used to slime kids and they slimed my kids because I took them up there and then slimed me. And my daughter Melanie was 6 then, and we're sitting and she knew all the stories. She sat in my lap when I did all these radio interviews, and she did this great story called I Wish I Had a Brother Like That she'd memorized. And, in the studio before we went in a TV studio, we were on a radio show with 2 million people, and the guy said, Melanie, congratulations, you just took 2 million people. And she froze and she said, I'm not saying another word. When she was just talking to this guy, impressing the heck out of him, because, here's a little kid that knew all dad's stories. I mean, because the only way to learn Bobby teaches is correct. Repetition's the mother of all learning, or whatever he says. But that's what I say, right? So, yeah, it works. So go create something wonderful and unique and transformational, because it would transform. Your goal is, let's get all the birth kids in the world to understand there may not be jobs for them, but there's no limit to problems, so there's no limit to opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
guys. It was a joy being with you both. Thank you
very much. I'm very honored, and thank you for doing that.
This is my joy.
My pleasure.